Warning, the following audio transmission is based on theory and is intended for entertainment purposes only. It's Doomsday and its affiliates will not be held liable for anything your dumbass does. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everybody, to It's Doomsday Podcast. Today is March 8th, 2023. Time is 2:04 p.m., and joining me for a bonus episode is the local prepper. What's going on, man? How are you today?
I'm great. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic, and for those of you out there, we're going to get into this war with China a little bit, the potential of war with China. Now, I've covered this on previous episodes, so we're not going to get deep into facts. I really wanted to get into the likelihood of war and what we could see with this. So, first question I got for you, local prepper, is do you think it's going to happen? Do you think we're going to go to war with China?
Well, technically we're already at war with China. But, I mean, a hot war, a force-on-force war, I'd say it's about 80-20.
80-20. Now,
that we would.
Okay, so 80 being likely, 20 being that we wouldn't.
Correct.
Okay. So everybody that's kind of in the prepper circle, I think this is one big thing that a lot of people worry about. This going to war with China probably worries me more than anything.
And
well, I mean, and I'm not trying.
You didn't finish your statement. Go ahead, man.
Well, I'm not trying to like sell people on fear or, trying to promote like war porn. But I mean, to me, if we got into a war with any country, the one I would be the most worried about would be China.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people just see what the media want us to see, and most of the time it's nothing. But what you have to know about China is that they've been trying to become a very world dominant power for years upon years upon years upon years. And they actually republish their global domination plans every 5 years. They come up with a new one every 5 years. First it was, the made in China. I mean, you can search them all the way back, but the ones that people need to know about is, made in China 2025. China, they aim to move away from being the world's factory. They're trying to get away from supplying Walmart with everything. And they wanted to upgrade, all their manufacturing capabilities, within the Chinese industries to grow away from the labor-intensive workshops and into more of a technology-intensive powerhouse, And then 5 years later, they put out another plan, the China Standards Plan. They called it the Long March Plan. Some people may have actually heard of that before. They aim to create a blueprint for the Chinese government and lead tech companies to, more global standards. And you're going to hear that term global standards a lot too, for emerging companies. They wanted to be the leaders in 5G. We've all heard of that. The Internet of Things. We hear about that from the Global Consortium. And artificial intelligence. Their focus on that for that time period is economic power. And then once they were able to achieve some of that, they rewrote their plan in the next 5 years. And they call that the Chinese Dream 2049. The plan to the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. And it focuses on the Chinese dream. And what the Chinese dream, when they translate it, is actually it's the idea for hope of it restoring earlier dynasties, to regain lost national greatness. Now, the only way they can do that is becoming the world's superpower. It's that easy.
Now, I have a question, because this is, I know a lot of the good, I don't really want to use the word good with this, but I know that Taiwan puts out a lot of good components and chips and things that we utilize for vehicles and other pieces of technology in the U.S. And I know China has been trying to dominate Taiwan for years. They've been trying to take control of Taiwan. Do you think that is in regards to becoming the superpower. We talk about the economic side of this, how China wants to dominate the economic side. I'm thinking that has to be a good play here with Taiwan. That's got to be why, right?
Are you looking for something kick-ass to add to your closet? Reaper has the hookup for t-shirts, hoodies, button-ups, hats, beanies, and plenty of other badass products. You can check out Reaper Apparel Company at www.reaperapparelco.com and use code DOOM10 for 10% off. Jester only stands behind brands he believes in, and Dan at Reaper Apparel has a mission, and Jester is on board. Go check out www.reaperapparelco.com today and use code DOOM10 for 10% off your entire order. Why be a sheep when you can reap? Use code DOOM10 for 10% off at www.reaperapparelco.com today.
Yeah, exactly. There's two variables, well, maybe three, but two that I can think of off the top of my head for China and Taiwan. Well, there you go. Taiwan, yeah, Taiwan do this. Taiwan is it's the powerhouse for making chips, semiconductors. And well, let's see, under the China 2025 program, it's like, well, let's see, is it easier for us to make all these capabilities, or maybe we'll just take them from the one China concept, which is Taiwan. So it's easier for them to do that. It's like people's like, there will be a nuclear war over Taiwan. It's like nuclear weapons will never be used over Taiwan. And the reason is very simple. They don't want to destroy that infrastructure. They want it for their own. Will that draw us into a war? Very possibly. But I think it would probably be a war very similar to what's happening in Ukraine now, where it's all done by proxy.
Right. And since you brought up the nuke thing, there's one comment I wanted to make for everybody out there that's listening. I think the likelihood of China dropping nukes on the U.S. is few and far between. I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think that we need to be in fear of nuclear war with China. I just don't see it being a thing. And I have my own reasons to believe that. And the main one being that there's resources in America that China wants. Why would you destroy something that you would want to take control of?
That's absolutely true. 100% agree with that. And to expand on that, that's not China's goal. That's not the way they think. They have no interest in our ground. They have no interest in our factories, our people. They do not want to put red stars everywhere. What they want to do is what they're trying to do now and have been able to do, unfortunately, for some time, and that is to control the people who control us.
So what you're basically referring to is them taking control of the U.S. government and having them set the law for us?
Well, if we look at the news today, how many Chinese government officials, how many Chinese businesses are we now trying to get out of our government? How many Chinese entities are we now trying to stop from buying property? How many, you see what I'm saying? We're now seeing that we're trying to get these entanglements untangled, and it's showing to be slightly difficult. But that's why China is so upset with us, is we're slowly pushing them out of our country so they can't control the people who control us.
Now, I know that TikTok has been a big one in conversation lately within the media, because everybody talks about, they're taking TikTok off government-owned devices, and different states are talking about banning it entirely. And I know I read something really interesting a few days back about how Walmart holds a stake in TikTok now.
Wow, that's interesting. I had not heard that.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly how that works, but something about it was either a shareholder that owns part of Walmart bought a big portion of it. There's an American-owned portion of TikTok now, so it's not all Chinese-owned, but it is Chinese-based. And, everybody's worried about the balloons, this, that, the other. TikTok is paving a roadmap throughout the U.S. for China.
Yeah, no, that's true. And, the funny thing, too, is I think it was last year they held hearings where they actually brought in the CEO of TikTok USA. I don't know exactly the name of it, but they basically, excuse me, the goal was to get him to admit that TikTok had was able to track everything, and that nothing ever went back to China, all the information that they gathered. And and for your listeners, if they haven't actually looked at the TikTok term of service, you might want to read that, because they can pretty much look at anything they want to. Once something touches your Wi-Fi, once something touches your phone, everything that's connected to it, they now have access to. They can read everything. And I'm not talking about reading your love letters. I'm talking about how, and I don't mean to go off into left field, but I think people don't understand how integrated TikTok is into everything that we do.
Do you have enough food in your pantry for when disaster strikes? Go to www.readywise.com and utilize code DOOM10 for 10% off your entire food order. ReadyWise offers long-term food storage items such as chicken and beef that last up to 15 years. But that's not all. Go to www.readywise.com and use our code DOOM10 for 10% off of organic food as well. Offering chili, pasta, and soups, they have you covered. Did we mention they have fruits? Bananas, blueberries, strawberries, and apples, just to name a few. With many more food options for your home, car, or bug-out bag, ReadyWise has your six. Go to www.readywise.com now and utilize code DOOM10 for 10% off.
You go out in town, someone says, hey, watch this TikTok video. I don't have TikTok. Well, you should get it. So you put TikTok on your phone, you take it home, and it automatically connects to your Wi-Fi, because we're consumers. We're Americans. We love convenience. And then as soon as it touches your Wi-Fi, every device that touches your Wi-Fi, you've given them permission to access your IP address, your names, your passwords, the websites that you've looked at. They're instantly creating a dossier based off of all that information. So people need to do that. Now, as far as TikTok and getting rid of them, yeah, we'll probably get rid of them. The government has already said they're going to do it, but the fact is it doesn't really matter. They're so integrated. Okay, well, I can't go to any government machines. I can't go to any state machines. But that doesn't matter, because I know where you live. I know I know what websites you look at. I know when you get on the internet. I know all of those things.
Right. And, so this could potentially be the ultimate form of blackmail if China would decide to use this against Americans in power, especially if you have some corrupt individuals within our government. And I'm not saying the U.S. government's corrupt by any means. But
yeah, well, I will. I'll say it. They are corrupt. I worked for the government.
So you imagine if China decided to blackmail some of these people in power and some of these leaders, I mean, they could easily do so with the information and data that they collect. But the reason why I brought up the TikTok thing is I think the ultimate sign that we are about to go to war with TikTok is that app being banned from the U.S. I think that's going to be, hitting the nail right on the head. A war is about to start is going to be with that app being banned in the U.S.
Yeah, well, here the thing is it's going to be very difficult for them to ban it in the country itself, and the reason is because it's technically a private company. That would be like saying that you're going to ban Twitter in the United States. Well, hold on a second. I'm a company. I have the right. I'm registered. I have the right to be here until you can prove definitively that I'm a national security risk. So getting rid of them in the United States is going to be very difficult to do. They actually are a U.S. company. They just happen to leach back to the CCP.
Right. And, there's users out there that are on Clapper, that are on other apps, and they're in Canada and different places. And I've had some of my Canadian people and some of my Australian people tell me that the apps that we download here in the States, they're limited on things that they can do.
I believe that there's probably an app for every country. Right. Otherwise, it wouldn't be acceptable. I think it also has a lot to do with the store that the app you find it in. Because they're going to have their rules, they're going to have their regulations and what they're willing to accept. It's just so hard to tell because, obviously we're there's not total transparency within the code itself. It was yesterday I watched the video on how there's now worries that the cranes that are in all the cranes that we use in the United States to offload all the cargo from the ships at the major ports are all made in China. And these cranes can actually be accessed remotely from China. Now, is there anything nefarious there? No, but there are some national security issues because technically they could shut those cranes down with the push of a button, and now we don't have the ability to move cargo on and off of ships. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's a very big problem. And, one thing I definitely wanted to get into was something a lot of people don't talk about is our dependency on China that we have now. America is extremely dependent on China.
Fire is one of the most basic essentials for survival. Whether you're camping, hiking, or preparing for disaster, Blackbeard has your six. Go to www.blackbeardfire.com and utilize code DOOMSDAY for 10% off your entire purchase. Blackbeard offers stormproof matches, plasma arc lighters, fire starters, and ferro rods, all of which are great for your bug out bag. Once again, go to www.blackbeardfire.com and utilize code DOOMSDAY for 10% off your entire purchase.
Most of our consumer goods they come in Chinese packaging or come from China themselves. Same with pharmaceuticals, even gunpowder comes from China. So, if we went to war and they stopped providing us with goods, do you imagine how that's going to cripple the economy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It wouldn't just cripple the economy. It would remove our ability to wage war at some point, which makes us defenseless. It's not about going; it's about being able to defend. The other thing too is people would freak the hell out because they can't get, whatever product that they're normally used to getting. And it would cause ripples throughout the economy that would literally just shake it into pieces. You could be looking at bread lines within 3 or 4 days if they decided to stop shipping stuff to us. It's basically, I want to say it's a 14-day translant from China from a Chinese port to a U.S. port. So that's the amount of time that you would know things are going bad, and obviously only the preppers would be able to. Only certain preppers would be like, "Hey, why aren't those ships moving in that direction?" So we might know if we were paying attention. But yeah, it would cause amazing problems for our economy, not just little trinkets, but food in general. So yeah, it's a problem.
Right. Well, yeah, food in general, some building materials and some supplies. Also, there's a lot of Chinese products that are utilized in the medical field. 911 still might get there, but they might not have the tools that they need to be able to treat you when they show up.
No, absolutely, absolutely. We saw that during the beginning of COVID. You remember that? We actually had to buy masks from China. And then we found people that were actually like hoarding them, like warehouses full of them during the beginning of COVID. So yeah, they could very easily control everything that happens inside of our economy if they really wanted to.
Right, 100%. And I think the big thing everybody just kind of negates is everybody thinks this product is made here in the U.S. We're good, we're safe. It's not something we have to worry about, but they're not factoring in the distribution side of this. They're not realizing that the packaging that this comes from China, and we do not have the ability to retool overnight and start getting all these products put back on shelves. So, I mean, the crippling effect is just...
Want to be a guest on the show? Email itsdoomsdaypodcast@gmail.com. That's itsdoomsdaypodcast@gmail.com.
It's mammoth, to say the least.
Exactly. I mean, well, here's the thing. 2 years ago, we knew this. 2 years ago, we knew this when they started talking about drugs and the inability for us to get penicillin, antibiotics. Well, that's because they were all being made in China, and we became dependent on them, and that, in the Chinese view, makes us subservient to them. What a lot of people need to understand is that when it comes to China, it's all about a policy they have called unrestricted warfare. And the gist of it, without getting into too details, is that anything can be a weapon and anything can be a target, as long as it's in the interest of the Chinese government, of the CCP. So they could literally, that's why I opened with, we're at war with China right now, but nobody really thinks about it. there are simple things like they've caught the and I'm only going to say this for a second, but they've actually caught the Chinese government paying for the Mexican cartels to move fentanyl. Why? Because it kills Americans. That's the simplest way of killing an American, economic attack. You've got the COVID. We all know it came from a factory. Why? Was it let loose purposely? We don't know. Now you're talking about biological warfare, police stations in the United States, cyber attacks, alliances with our enemies, alliances with some of the people that are our friends that are trying to take away that friendship. For instance, the F-16 sales this last month to Syria. Oh, we don't want to do that. Well, by the way, we can sell you some F-29s for really cheap. They're Chinese, but hey, they'll do the job. Stock market crashes, economic weapons, media weapons. I mean, the things that trigger us. The Chinese will use anything and everything as a weapon and never have to face us.
I just wanted to touch on the COVID thing real quickly here. I kept saying since COVID hit, and we all talked about how it was released from China. We all talked about how this was probably done on purpose. Now we're seeing little snippets come out in the media here and there, kind of stating that this was not accidental, that this was created, this was released on purpose. And I'm just waiting for somebody to pull that accountability card. Like, we need to hold China accountable for this. And we're now looking at this as biological warfare, which it clearly was, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. If you account the COVID deaths, I mean, look at how quickly we went to war after 9/11. We held someone accountable. We got into war immediately. Why haven't we done that with China yet over this virus? A lot of people lost their lives. A lot of people lost their livelihood, their jobs, everything else. The economy was crippled due to this. If it comes out in the media that this was all done on purpose, they're going to want to hold somebody accountable. And when that happens, that will be war. 100%.
Are you looking for something kick-ass to add to your closet? Reaper has the hookup for t-shirts, hoodies, button-ups, hats, beanies, and plenty of other badass products. You can check out Reaper Apparel Company at www.reaperapparelco.com and use code DOOM10 for 10% off. Jester only stands behind brands he believes in, and Dan at Reaper Apparel has a mission, and Jester is on board. Go check out www.reaperapparelco.com today and use code DOOM10 for 10% off your entire order. Why be a sheep when you can reap? Use code DOOM10 for 10% off at www.reaperapparelco.com today.
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. I personally believe that it was leaked. It was biological warfare. Unfortunately, when the Chinese government pulls the strings of the World Health Organization, who just says, "Oh, shut everything down," and no, it's not possible. Whatever they say, it came from a bat someplace that's 900 miles away from Wuhan. It's like, okay, so maybe they went and they got the bat. There's a lot of variables there that human beings can screw up, but we have to look at it more realistically. During that time period, we were destroying them economically.
Right.
We had a different president. He was destroying them economically. They were paying through the nose to ship even the things they wanted to ship to us, let alone the trinkets. This was a problem for China. So how do you make your economy stronger? By destroying another economy. Now, I don't think that they saw all the way through this. I think they knew they weren't going to kill everybody when they released it, because it didn't kill everybody. They killed a lot of people. They created a lot of hysteria within their own company, within their own country. But the reality is that was it 0.001985, death rate or something like that. And now it's like, okay, I've just got version 5 and here's my cough. I myself am getting over it, and I had the long stuff, and I'm still doing just fine. So I'm sure there's lots of other Chinese people that are doing just fine. It was a biological weapon. In my opinion, it was a biological weapon. It was very, very effective. It was the first time anybody ever even thought about doing something like this. And now they know what they can do if they want to. But as usual, Americans are slow, but they catch on, and then they pull that "you fool me once" game. So, yeah, it was definitely a biological weapon, but no one's going to be held accountable, and the reason is because the Chinese government holds the strings of the WHO. We signed on to several WHO agreements.
Do you have enough food in your pantry for when disaster strikes? Go to www.readywise.com and utilize code DOOM10 for 10% off your entire food order. ReadyWise offers long-term food storage items such as chicken and beef that last up to 15 years. But that's not all. Go to www.readywise.com and use our code DOOM10 for 10% off of organic food as well. Offering chili, pasta, and soups, they have you covered. Did we mention they have fruits? Bananas, blueberries, strawberries, and apples, just to name a few. With many more food options for your home, car, or bug-out bag, ReadyWise has your six. Go to www.readywise.com now and utilize code DOOM10 for 10% off.
Even the people, like I went over this the other day with somebody. It's like, oh, someone in Congress should be held accountable for these lies. It's like, well, that's dynamite, but you clearly don't understand that the people in Congress, as long as it's during business hours, they can lie through their teeth and nothing legally can be done to them. So no one's going to be held accountable.
So I'll tell you what, though, regardless of it being a great biological weapon, it was definitely a great political weapon because we saw what this did within government. We saw how things changed. We saw how people were manipulated into a new way of life. We saw we've traded out freedom for safety. We saw all this take place. And I'm kind of wondering in my head, because I haven't seen great statistics on this or great numbers, and you probably know this, but how much did COVID deplete the military? We saw a lot of stories about soldiers leaving because of the vaccine. I don't know how many soldiers, in fact, passed away due to the virus. I haven't seen any numbers on that. But do you feel that the military was crippled in any way due to the virus?
Most definitely. You have to look at there's a lot of different routes. If you just look at it from the numbers that they removed from the military because they wouldn't comply. If you just look at those numbers, we probably lost 30% of our military personnel, which is huge. It's absolutely huge. All right. Then if you look at, excuse me, that's that long COVID talking to me again. If you look at the perception of, hey, you're going to do this, we broke these men and women. There were a lot of people that did not agree with the jab, but they did it anyway because they felt as if it was necessary to either stay in their positions or to continue to serve, or maybe they thought it was patriotic. I was around when they were putting anthrax into people. I was on active duty then, and I was like, no, that's not happening because, okay, well, I'll worry about it when the envelope with white powder shows up at my house. That's when I'll worry about it. That's my decision. They were given, and when they did that, see, that's one of the things that they did in the military too during the anthrax time period, was they were doing the informed consent. They were following the medical recommendations of doctors, and they were giving the information, and they could opt out of it. And when they opted out of it, there was not this massive uproar because they knew that there were side effects. I myself lost an unbelievable shooter. We shot things at long distances, we'll say. But I lost an unbelievable operator / shooter because when they gave him his shot, every nerve in his arm went dead. He almost instantly went limp. They said it was nerve damage. To this day, the guy can't even pick up a cup of coffee. There were lots and lots of those side effects because of the anthrax. So it's bad all the way around.
So a lot of Americans forget the anthrax. They forget when, the country was terrified to open a letter that came in the mail. And I remember the media going haywire with the anthrax too. Mm-hmm. Remember the anthrax baby that they kept posting up in the media all the time? And this was a time before TikTok and Facebook and MySpace. This was before all that. And the media was able to get this message out there. And they utilized it as a great tool to just they they utilized it as fear porn. If we're being honest, like that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, for the amounts of anthrax that were actually out there, and the amount of people that, you know, actually had an issue with this, I mean, the numbers were so few and far between. There wasn't this need for this fear porn within the media.
Fire is one of the most basic essentials for survival. Whether you're camping, hiking, or preparing for disaster, Blackbeard has your six. Go to www.blackbeardfire.com and utilize code Doomsday for 10% off your entire purchase. Blackbeard offers stormproof matches, plasma arc lighters, fire starters, and ferro rods, all of which are great for your bug out bag. Once again, go to www.blackbeardfire.com and utilize code Doomsday for 10% off your entire purchase.
No, I completely agree. But, you know, it was also, we also have to look at, we have to look at, you know, whether we like it or not. On our side, our intelligence community was like, hey, that really worked out pretty well, guys. Maybe we should put that in our playbook. And so that's what they did. But so did every other intelligence community in every other country, to include the CCP. You know, like I said, everything is a weapon. They could very easily have gone, hey, well, we're going to put out this thing. It's going to be, let's not call it the super flu. Let's call it, I don't know, COVID. You know, yeah, that's what we'll call it. And then we'll kind of accidentally release it and call it bat flu or whatever. And then the media will blow this thing up huge. And then the government will have nothing to do, or will be able to do nothing but shut everything down. Because, I mean, if you just look at the death toll, there's a website called covidact.com, possibly. You might want to get the net or org or something, but it's COVID Act. It's all one word. And they'll tell you, like, how many people are currently dying. It's like, really? I need to know exactly this hour how many people are dying from COVID? Yeah, I don't think I need that kind of information. And so it feeds these people, it feeds the need for information that we have. We consume it so rapidly, but it also plays into that fear porn. Because if nobody ever looked at that website would just be like foo-foo us and disappear. But people watch it all the time.
Right. Now, with this potential war with China, guys, if you go out and you simply just Google war with China right now, you're going to have web pages upon web pages. The list is endless of news stories that are reporting on different things right now. So you better believe as soon as a match is struck with this, the media is going to go haywire. And this is all that you're going to see. And at that point, we are going to see misinformation coming out of the wazoo nonstop. And I don't really see an end to that once it starts. It's going to be just like COVID. When they turned it on, they couldn't shut it off. And it was all everybody talked about. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see this, you know how they were, support Ukraine, screw Russia, let's take Russian products off the shelf, all this stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that with China products as well. Even though it's going to cripple the economy, it's going to be horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they do supply a lot of the products that we use to make products. That's one of the key things right there. You know, the other thing that we have to remember, too, is if they ever were to flip that switch and make it so things are really hard here, and then, of course, the media would pick it all up. It would have that same hype level as the COVID thing did. The quicker we can figure out the reason why they're doing it, what their real agenda is, the quicker we can turn it off. With COVID, there was nothing there. You know, it's like we didn't see these things. Why is this happening? Because it was all under the pretext of something released. Like I said, the whole bat idea, the joke, But why? They're always trying to ask, those three, who, what, where, when, how, why. But they never really focus on the why. What is the agenda behind this actually happening? And why is the media carrying it and pushing it so hard? And once they can figure that out, then we can dissolve the whole problem.
So, Local Prepper, we're about to be out of here. I wanted to go ahead and have you drop your information where people could find you online if they want to get a hold of you, things like that.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. So you can go to localprepper.net, and that'll take you right to my front page where you can see all the different platforms that I'm on. I do live stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, unless I got super COVID or I got something better to do, which is rare. And that's 10 a.m. Eastern. On Wednesdays, I normally do 2 hours if I feel up to it. And then obviously all the videos that I make, different, making stuff and promoting products that I believe in, things like that. But you can generally find me there. I'm normally everywhere in some semblance of Local Prepper, all one word, and it's always the same logo: white circle, black letters, just keeping it as simple as possible.
This is an emergency action message. At approximately 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, NORA is tracking 15 ICBM nuclear missiles inbound to the following cities: Orlando, Miami, Pittsburgh, Dover, Newark, Richland, Philadelphia, New York City, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Boston, Seattle, Detroit. This is an extremely deadly situation. Stay tuned. The next emergency message will be a presidential address.